Same parking lot, same woman, 1 week apart. The first time, she's in an 8-year-old sedan. Cracked bumper, a coffee ring dried onto the console, a badge nobody has ever taken a photo of. The second time, she's driving her brother's car because hers is in the shop and he owed her a favor. Same errand, same lot, same hour of the afternoon. But this car is quiet and clean and costs about as much as a small house, and it makes the guy parking cars stand up a little straighter. Notice the cruel part. Between those 2 afternoons, her bank balance didn't move. Her income didn't move. Nothing about the actual woman changed at all. The room changed. First visit, the salesman finished his text message before he wandered over. Second visit, somebody was already crossing the lot toward her before she'd even shut off the engine. She hadn't said a word either time, not one, and the room had already decided what she was worth, and much more importantly, what it could charge her for being her. Now, people sizing up your money is old news. We all do it. We all get it done to us. That part isn't the problem. The problem is how often that quick little judgment stops being a feeling and turns into an actual number. A fee, an interest rate, a price that's quietly steeper for you than for the person who pulled in driving something shinier. And this is the part that costs people real money. The second you feel that judgment land on you, almost every instinct you've got starts whispering the same advice. Go buy a better one, a nicer car, a bigger watch, some louder signal that tells the room to sit up and behave. Except the money you'd spend chasing that signal is almost always the same money that was quietly keeping you safe. You'd be selling the thing that actually works to buy the thing that only looks like it does. That's the case file today, the status receipt. By the end, a few ordinary rooms are going to look different than they did this morning. Every room you walk into prints a receipt. You never get to see it. It's just a fast, silent guess about what your money probably says about you, and it's accurate enough, often enough, to actually move the terms you get offered. But a guess about your money and the real state of your money are two completely different things. That gap right there is the whole episode. A visible signal changes how a room treats you. Private leverage decides whether the room's terms can control you. From the inside, treatment and control feel like the same thing. They are not, and the entire job today is to pull them apart and hand you back the one that matters. I'll tell you why this is so easy to get backwards. Treatment is loud. It happens right now, in front of you, so it grabs your attention and most of your money. Control is quiet and slow and almost boring to build, so it's easy to put off for years. We're gonna flip that order around on purpose. Start with what people are reading off you, because they are reading something, constantly, long before you open your mouth. I think of it as the visible ledger. It's everything a stranger can price in about 3 seconds. The car, the watch, the condition of your shoes, the phone you set face down on the counter without thinking about it, the zip code on the form. What you happen to throw on this particular Tuesday. None of that is your finances. They're proxies, cheap stand-ins for a number nobody in the room can actually see. And the human brain absolutely loves a cheap stand-in, especially about money, because the true number is hidden and the proxy is sitting right there in plain view. So the server reads the table. The salesman reads the parking lot. The landlord reads your handshake and your haircut and the way you say the word deposit. And here's the uncomfortable part. These guesses are wrong all the time, and they get acted on anyway, as if they were just plain facts. The woman in the tired sedan might have $200,000 sitting quietly in an index fund. The man in the borrowed luxury car might be 3 missed payments away from watching it get towed. The ledger has no idea. The ledger can't know. It only ever sees the surface, and the surface is cheap to fake, which is exactly why so many people spend themselves hollow faking it. It's not only objects either. The ledger reads behavior too. Whether you flinch at a price, whether you check your balance before you answer a simple question, whether you ask, "Can I afford this?" out loud, or just quietly decide. Rooms read hesitation as a money signal, same as they read the watch. And here's what most people do when they feel themselves get priced like that. they rush to fix the surface. They never stop to ask whether the guess was even true. They just want it to be flattering. They want the parking lot to lie for them. That's the first turn of the trap. Hold on to it. We're coming back with the math. Make this concrete, because a stranger's snobby glance is one thing. Repriced financial terms are something else entirely. This is where the receipt stops being a feeling and becomes a number you actually pay. So stop picturing a person and picture an institution. A bank, a lender, the finance desk at a dealership. They don't read your shoes. They read your balance, your history, and the size of your cushion. And then they sort you, not by how pleasant you are, but by how profitable you are to them. The sober version matters here, because this usually gets sold as a conspiracy, and it really is not one. A customer who lives right up against a zero balance is, to a bank, a different product than a customer who keeps a cushion sitting there. The first one keeps brushing up against overdraft charges and minimum balance fees, all those little penalties that live at the edge of empty. The second one almost never touches that edge, so they almost never trip those fees. Same bank, same services, wildly different amount of money earned off two different people. That's not the bank being afraid of you, and it's not the bank loving you either. It's just incentives doing what incentives always do. A business makes more from the customer running closer to the cliff, and it shows up in the terms. Run lean and you tend to get worse rates, more fees, and a lot less mercy on the one day you really need a break. Keep a cushion and you start seeing fee waivers, better loan pricing, and a human being who suddenly remembers to return your call. That warmth you feel at a good counter, a lot of the time it's just a mirror, reflecting back how much leverage you walked in carrying. And this pattern is not stuck inside banks. It's running in a dozen ordinary rooms at once. The car financing desk is reading whether you care about the total price or only the monthly payment. And if you only watch the monthly payment, the length of the loan becomes a beautiful place to bury cost. Stretch it out far enough and almost any payment looks reasonable, while the real total quietly swells in the background. The repair counter is reading whether you seem like someone who could walk out, or someone who needs this fixed by tonight. A seller is reading whether you fell in love with the thing before you talked numbers, because wanting something badly is a signal too, and it has a price. A hiring manager is reading whether you've got savings behind you or a deadline breathing down your neck. The person who can say, "Let me think about it," gets a different offer than the person who needs a yes by Friday. Underneath every one of those rooms, it's the same single question being asked over and over. Not how rich does this person look? It's, can this person actually say no? That's the thing being priced. Everything else is just a clue pointing toward the answer. A small picture helps here, because abstractions slide right off, and a scene tends to stick. Two people call the same company about the same overdue bill on the same gray afternoon. The first one is one missed payment away from things falling apart, and you can hear it. The strain is right there in the voice. They open with an apology. They over-explain. They ask a little too quickly whether there's anything at all, that can be done. The second one has 3 months of expenses sitting in a savings account and no fear in their tone whatsoever. They lay out the problem flat. They mention, almost in passing, that they're weighing a couple of options. Then they stop talking, and they let the silence sit there. Same bill, same company, same script on the other end of the line, at least to start. But the rep on that call is hearing 2 completely different amounts of leverage, and the offers start drifting apart because of it. The calm one isn't smarter. They're not better with words. They're just standing on a floor the first caller hasn't built yet. And honestly, the floor did most of the talking. You don't really argue your way into better terms. You stand somewhere solid, and better terms become the likely thing. This is where people make the genuinely expensive mistake, and it is an understandable one. You feel the cold version of the receipt, the slow service, the worse offer, that quick skeptical flick of the eyes. And the obvious fix, the one that feels like common sense, is just to upgrade the signal. Buy the nicer car. Wear the better watch. Move to the address that sounds like more. Become the person the room hustles over to meet at the door. Then the math changes. I'll use a car because it's the cleanest version of the whole mechanism.
A nicer car is never one number. It's a stack of numbers that show back up every single month. The payment is just the front door.
Behind it, higher insurance, more expensive fuel, repairs that cost more by design, and depreciation that's quietly vicious. The shiny thing loses value the second it rolls off the lot, and then keeps losing it every day while you keep making payments. And the marketing around all of this is genuinely brilliant because it never once says the word luxury. It says capability. It says reliability. It says you've earned this. This is the grown-up choice. This is the responsible thing a serious person does. So a pure status purchase gets quietly relabeled as a practical one, and spending the money starts to feel almost like discipline. But follow what that money was doing in the minute right before you spent it. That money was your cushion, your runway, your unglamorous, invisible ability to walk away from a deal you don't like. It was the exact thing that got institutions to offer you the better terms in the first place. So look at the whole loop. You spend your leverage to buy a signal that says you have leverage, and the receipt you are trying to fix gets quietly worse underneath, in the one place where it actually counts. You walk away looking more powerful in the parking lot and standing more fragile at the desk. The room treats you a little better. The terms treat you worse. And it's the terms that ride home with you and stay. This isn't a car thing, by the way. It's the upgrade you didn't need. It's the lifestyle that ratchets up a notch every time the income does. It's any purchase whose real job is to manage what someone else thinks of you. The object swaps out. The trap is identical every time. If chasing the signal is the wrong move, what actually works? You build the part of your money that nobody can see from the parking lot. I call it the private leverage floor, and it is almost aggressively boring, which is the whole point. It's the unflashy stuff that lets you walk away from a bad offer without your voice shaking. It starts with cash you can actually put your hands on, not invested in anything clever, not locked up where you'd pay to reach it, just plain, dull emergency money, sitting there, ready. That's the thing that lets you say, not today, and genuinely mean it. Boring cash is probably the most underrated source of power a normal person can hold, and it shows up on exactly 0 receipts. Then there's how low you can get your fixed costs. The smaller the monthly nut you're required to cover, the longer you can hold your breath when something goes wrong. A person with low fixed costs simply has more no's available than someone earning twice as much who's locked into a heavy, expensive life. Income gets all the applause, but it's the gap between what comes in and what you're forced to spend that quietly buys your freedom. There's the stuff you actually own outright, the car that owes nothing, the tool that's fully yours. None of it prints a flashy receipt for anybody, but it's also not bleeding money every month. And that silence is its own kind of leverage. And there's knowing your debt cold. What you owe, at what rate, on what schedule, with nothing hiding around a corner. Debt isn't automatically the villain here. Confused debt is the villain. High rate, half forgotten, surprise me later debt. Clarity, even about something you owe, is leverage too. Every one of those pieces is really building toward the same single thing. The real, factual ability to walk away. That's the entire reason the floor exists. Each part is just there to widen the gap between you and a deal you don't actually have to take. And here's the strange, slightly freeing part. None of it is visible. The room can't see your emergency fund. It can't see your low fixed costs. It can't see your clean little balance sheet. So you get to stop performing wealth and start quietly holding it in the exact place where the real terms get decided. And little by little, the receipt stops mattering so much. Not because the room ever warmed up to you. Because you stopped needing it to. Turn this into something you can use tonight. Because a thesis you cannot use is just a pleasant feeling that fades by morning. Run a quick audit on yourself. 3 questions. That's enough. First, what signals am I currently paying for? Go down your fixed costs, line by line, and find every expense that exists at least partly to be seen by someone. The upgrade you bought more for the room than for yourself. The payment, that's mostly buying an impression. You're not banning anything yet. You're just letting yourself see the number for once, instead of leaving it visible only to strangers. Most people have genuinely never added this up, and it tends to be bigger and quieter than they'd guess. Second, which of these is actually buying me safety, and which is only buying me permission? Because some of it really does protect you. Reliable transportation, tools that earn their keep, your health. And some of it only buys permission to be treated a hair better in a room you'll walk through once and never see again. Be honest about which is which. The signal that buys real safety can absolutely stay. The signal that just buys a warmer glance from a stranger, that one's optional. Sit with that word for a second. A surprising amount of status spending turns out to be optional the moment you actually name it. Third, and this is the real one, if an offer went bad on you tomorrow, how many no's do you actually have? Notice this has nothing to do with how you look. Count the months your cash and your low costs could carry you with no income coming in. That number is your leverage in plain units. If it's small, a louder signal won't fix it. It'll usually shrink it because the signal eats money you didn't have to spare. If it's large, you'll feel it the next time you're standing at some counter. It's a kind of steadiness, and the room can read it on you, because this is the thing the best salespeople and the sharpest lenders have always known. Real leverage has a posture. People who can genuinely walk tend to negotiate like people who can genuinely walk. You don't have to fake that or rehearse it in a mirror. The floor just produces it for free. You quit acting confident and start being uncornered, and the room clocks the difference almost instantly. One honest caveat before this drifts off into fantasy. This is not magic, and it is not fast. The floor gets built by structure, not by motivation, by a savings rate you can actually live with, not by some heroic burst of willpower you summon in January and lose by March. There's a real stubborn gap between what most people put away and what genuine walkaway power actually costs. You close that gap slowly, with low costs and steady, unexciting deposits, not with one dramatic decision you make tonight and forget about by spring. So, if you are hoping the answer was a single, bold, cinematic move, I'm sorry to disappoint you. It's mostly quiet repetition. But quiet repetition is the only thing that has ever really moved the terms in someone's favor. The dramatic move is usually how the terms move against you. And give it a while before you decide it isn't working. The floor is invisible for a long time, including to you. For months, it just feels like missing out on things. Then one day an offer goes sour, and you feel something solid under your feet that wasn't there before, and you realize all those boring deposits quietly turned into power while you weren't paying attention. Let's go back to the parking lot, back to the woman and the two cars. Say she runs the audit. She looks hard at that borrowed luxury car, the one that made the valet stand up straighter, and she does the honest math on actually owning it. And she sees that the upgrade would cost her almost exactly the cushion that lets her walk away from bad deals. So she keeps the tired sedan, on purpose this time. Cracked bumper, coffee ring, anonymous little badge, and a stack of quiet leverage parked behind all of it. And the money she would have poured into the signal, she puts into the part nobody can see from the lot. A few months later, she's back. Same lot, same desk, same kind of salesman reading the same kind of car. He still reads the car first. The room still prints its little receipt on her. That part never really stops, and that's fine. She's done expecting it to. But this time something's different, and all of it is sitting on her side of the table. The offer comes in worse than it should, and she just pauses. And she is genuinely, actually ready to leave. Not as a bluff, not as some negotiating move she read about, just as a plain fact about her life. She has the nose. She carried the floor in with her, and the terms move, quietly. The way terms always seem to move the second a room senses you really, truly don't need it. She didn't buy a better receipt. She built a floor underneath herself, and the receipt just stopped getting to make the decision. Yes, people will price you before you ever speak. You can't fully stop that, and you'll burn a whole life trying. So build the floor nobody can see first. Then, and only then, go decide which signals are actually worth paying for. Because the goal was never to get the room to like you. It was to get to the point where the room's opinion doesn't get to set your price. I'm Nora. I'll see you in the next one. And in the meantime, keep an honest eye on the part of your ledger nobody else can.